Hi, in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at notify-send and expanding the gnome notification bubbles. So first of all, notify-send is a command line application that allows you to send notifications that will be shown by your notification system, whether you're on GNOME or ADE or whatever distro. And the issue is with GNOME, what will happen is it will actually truncate the size of the message and remove white space so that everything is condensed. So what I'll do is I'll show you what I mean. Now what I'm going to do here is run notify send title and then put 3 separate lines for the body. So what it should display is the title, line 1, line 2 and line 3. But what happens is it's all displayed on one line here. But as you can see, as I moused over, what happens is the message is expanded. Can you see how it's expanded as I mouse over? But by default, it will actually show it all on one line. Now I want to show the issue that I'm having. The reason why I'm doing this is if I come across to videos, and what I'm going to do is just open one of my videos, and let me just sort of resize this or move it off down here. What I have is a script called now playing that will create a pop-up showing a image from the video and the playhead position. So if I run that script here, now playing, what you'll see is everything is put on one line here, but as I mouse over, you'll see this is the format it should have, sort of like artist, player, and that's basically MPV, the status, paused, the duration of the video, and the position. So the issue that I'm having is if I run the script, by default it's like this, and you can't see the actual message until you mouse over like this, whereas it will then display it like it should be. So what I'm going to do is come across and show you where the notifications are stored or shown, and how they work, and how we're going to get around and fix this problem so that when we use notify send in scripts, the messages will automatically be expanded and not collapsed with all the white space so you can't see anything. Let me just have some tea. So what I'm going to do is open the settings app and go into the notifications section. So when I open the settings here and come into notifications, what you see is a list of desktop applications that have support for desktop notifications. So for example, if we come into Firefox here, what we see is we have these options: notification, sound alert, notification pop-up, show message content in pop-ups, lock screen. So what I assumed was that the mechanism for having the pop-ups expanded or collapsed was to do with this show message content in pop-ups. So if we open dconf, which is a application that allows you to view the various G settings, what we're going to do is come across into org, gnome, desktop, and come down to notifications. And what we'll see here is applications. And in here, what we have is a list of applications that have desktop files and support desktop notifications. So this is basically the same listing as this in the settings here. So as if we come across into Firefox, for example, what we'll see down here is this setting, force automatic expanding of banners. So this option corresponds to show message content in pop-ups in the settings. So it looks like there's a way for desktop applications to have the banners automatically expanded so that they're not collapsed and remove all the white space so you can't actually see anything. So that's the first thing. There is a setting for desktop files, both in settings with show message content in pop-ups, or using dconf and setting force expanded to true. So the issue is that notify-send is a, let's close that video now. Notify-send is a command line application, and so it doesn't have a .desktop file. So what we need to do is create a .desktop file for notify-send, which will then show up in settings and dconf, where we can then toggle the force expanded banner on, so we don't have to mouse over the notification to see the full message. So let's come across here. So what we need to do is create a .desktop file, and these typically go in local share applications, or the system default would be user share applications, I think. So what we need to do is put in some information in this desktop file. First of all, there's the name. So this is the name that will actually show up listed in dconf and settings. So that's notify-send. So we add in a comment here, send notifications. Exec equals notify-send. So that's the application that we're actually running. And we've got a icon set here for utilities terminal. So this just basically shows a terminal image in the settings. So when you go into settings, it will show up. Now next type we have type application, but these are the two important things. Startup notify equals true. Now this basically will determine whether this desktop file shows up in settings, notifications, and dconf. So we're basically saying that this application can actually provide notifications. The next one down here we've got is NoDisplay equals true. And what this does is this will hide the desktop entry from our application launcher. Like in GNOME, when you launch applications, you see all the applications listed here. Those are all .desktop files that have a link to an icon in them, and those all show up in your application launcher. So because we're not actually going to be running notify-send graphically, it's a command line application, we don't want it to show up listed in our applications menu or launcher or what have you. So startup notify equals true, NoDisplay equals true, and basically exec send. So what we're going to do is we're going to move that notify-send.desktop file, move notify-send to local share applications. What we're now going to do is we'll rerun a notify-send command, okay, and we'll switch across to settings. And as you can see, what's happened now is after we've added that .desktop file to our local share applications, we ran notify-send once, and now notify-send shows up listed here. And what you'll see is by default the show message content pop-ups is toggled off. So if I toggle it on, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to force expand the banner for notify-send commands. So let's come back here, multiple line. As you can see, now by default the banner is expanded, and we no longer have to mouse over it to see the full message. And so this is really useful because notify-send is typically something you're going to use a lot in scripts. And as I showed you, I'll come back to this thing and play another video. Hi, in today. Okay, so we just move this down. Can I resize it? Okay, just resize it, move it, and switch across here. And now if I do now playing, you'll see it will display this listed here, expanded, and annoyingly it's displaying the image really small. When I was previously using this script with Dunst, I could set the image to be a lot larger and have some control over the formatting of the pop-up, but in GNOME you don't. So we fixed the problem, and all we need to do is basically put that .desktop file in our local share application. So if I come across to my .files, .config, no, .local, where is it? Local share applications, notify-send.desktop. You just come across raw, save that, notify-send, save it to your downloads, and then just put it in and say, we basically just move that notify-send.desktop file to local share applications. Then once you've done that, I said all you need to do is come into the system settings, notifications, come across to notify-send, toggle the show message content in pop-ups to on. And if I now open dcomp, and come into the applications folder, so applications, so all GNOME desktop notifications applications, what you'll see now is notify-send is listed here, and you can see that the force expanded is turned to on, force automatic expanding of banners, and that's because I turned it on here. So if you can either turn it on here, show message content in pop-ups, or in dconf. So you can also use set things in dconf on the command line as well. So rather than going through and do it graphically, there'll be a command to actually set the force expanded banners to on. So I'll have a look at that and stick a bit of code under the video or something if I figure out what it is. So yeah, that's all there is to it. Once we've done that, it's turned on the show message content or force expand banners. Now using scripts that use notify-send, so notify-send, just do now playing again. So now playing, you can see that's expanded there. Let me just get a YouTube video actually and show you. I can do the same thing with a YouTube video. And let's just copy that link and see if I can. I'll just open another.
Well,
okay, there's Rubenstein. Just gonna open another tab. Oh, God's sake, well, can't find library vterm. Ugh. For some reason it's not. Must need to re-download vterm. Of course, it's going to do that in the middle of doing a demo. So I won't show you that now. Good job I hadn't closed this tab, so I don't know why that's happened. But you get the idea that now I can. Let me just open a terminal instead. I can send notify send title, and then put stuff on multiple lines. So line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, get the picture, and you can now see that it's automatically expanded. Whereas if I come across into the settings and go to notify send and turn off show message content in pop-ups and switch back and run the same command, you can see now it's all collapsed and only expands when I move the cursor over it. Same thing if I was to open dconf. So dconf force expanded. So if I toggle that on, reload, and you see if I come across to the settings, see that's now turned on. So if you turn it on in dconf, it will automatically turn it on in the settings. And again, if I now do notify send, it's going to show it expanded automatically. So that's how we can fix automatic expansion of notify send banners in Google, I was going to say Google Chrome, in GNOME. As I said, the issue is basically to do with applications having .desktop files, and only applications that have .desktop files will actually show up in the notifications thing down here, or in dconf notify applications. And let's have another look at the actual so again, really easy to create this .desktop file. We start off with brackets up here, desktop entry, name equals notify send, and that's the name that shows up in the settings and in dconf. A little comment there saying what it basically does, and then exec equals notify-send, icon equals utilities dash terminal, and that's why it gives you the that icon there in settings, and then it's listed as an application. And let me just top my tea up. And finally, the two important things were StartupNotify equals true, and that's what sets the application to be listed under the notification sections in the settings and in dconf. And finally, we have NoDisplay equals true, and that prevents the desktop file from being listed in your application launcher. So if I open the application launcher here and type notify, so you can see it's listing the notifications section of the settings, but it's not listing notify send, and that's because we've got this setting down here. So I'll put a link to the file here so you can download it, and again, all you need to do to get this working is to put it in the local share applications directory, and I'll have a look and open settings or dconf and set the pop-up show message content in pop-ups to true. It's disabled by default, or come into notify send in dconf and set force expanded to true. So I'll have a look at the command for setting that on the command line. So basically all you'll need to do is actually download the file, put it in place, and then run a command in the command line, and it will toggle that setting on for you. And once you've done that, it will automatically expand the banners for you. So that's really useful if you're using notifications. And the other thing I should mention is if you're GNOME and your terminal or your application or whatever is full screen and you run the notify send, you won't see the notification. You'll only see it if you're got the window maximized or if it's not full screen, so that you can actually see the title bar up here. So if you want to see your notifications, you've got to have the window not in full screen, otherwise you won't see it unless you switch to another workspace that's not in full screen. So that's how we can set the notifications to be full screen, be listed, expanded, but you see they're still listed. It's collapsed in the view here, so that's really annoying. There may be some extension that you can use to change that, but I can't actually install extensions because the extension manager won't open for me because I'm running Wayland and using NVIDIA. So there seems to be some bug where you can't open the extensions manager to actually install extensions and configure them. But that's basically all you need to do to get the notifications to work full screen. And again, it's just that these are all desktop applications or applications that have got a desktop file that has got the startup notify equals true enabled, and that's why they all appear here, and that's why command line applications don't appear, because they don't have a desktop file. So simply creating a desktop file, sticking it in the local share applications, setting the startup, the notify thing to true, and set it to not display in the application launcher, means we basically can configure it like this, set the message pop-ups to be expanded, but then not have it listed when we run our application launcher, because it's a command line application and we don't want to launch it through the GUI. So that's something that's just been bothering me with the GNOME desktop application, the GNOME notifications, and why the text wasn't expanded was really bugging me. So after a bit of detective work, figured out it's to do with the desktop files. So the command line, we needed to create this desktop file for notify-send. Once we did that, it showed up in the settings in dconf, and we could then set that switch in either of those so that the messages were automatically expanded, so we don't have to mouse over them to see the full message. So I'll put links to all this under the video, and that's all for now.